What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NAV Lab. Today we have our guest, Corey Iranfar, one of the top agents, if not the top agent, some quarters on the team. Corey, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. NAV Lab, that's a cool name. I didn't know that was the name of it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
In the
Thanks
lab.
for having me.
So as I start most of these podcasts, I like to ask, where are you from, how you got started in real estate. Why don't you take us down that road?
Yeah. So I'm from Aurora, Colorado, born and raised, went to Cherry Creek schools my whole life. Never really deviated outside of Aurora. I still live in Aurora now. I love Aurora. For my real estate career, it's interesting. I've got that question a couple of times, and I started in property management. So I used to lease apartments for I think 4 or 5 years, and I bounced around different places. Like I worked in Littleton, Denver, actually worked in Glendale right over here for a couple of years, and that was fun. And actually when I transferred from my property there in Glendale, I went and worked at this lease up in Littleton. So when these big developers have brand new apartments, they need to hire a leasing team, right? So they need somebody to lease the building up. And I got hired over there, thankfully. Like I got transferred. And after working there and leasing for so long, I've always had a lot of people on my apartment tours ask me if I ever considered real estate. And it was always something that was like kind of brought up and never really resonated well with me because I never really thought about it. And then my friend Chris, he got his real estate license and was telling me about it. And I just brushed it off. But then I just kept getting that same thing, like a lot of people that would come tour apartments and be like, hey, have you considered real estate? And then I eventually just went to school and got my license, and it's been great since. I went to Armbrust. I don't know if you've heard of them before.
Yep, I have, for sure.
They're really good. They had I don't know if they still have it, but they had the highest passing rate in all of Colorado.
Cool.
I think
That's in Aurora, right? It's like south.
I think when I went there, they were like in Greenwood Village, and then he moved somewhere else in DTC. I think his name is Patrick. Super cool guy. They actually go take the test every year, like twice a year, to like get the content from the test and bring it back to the school. So that's why their pass rate's so high.
Yeah, I remember it was a while ago. I was like in the parking lot for like some like at another place there. I think it was like in like a shopping mall type thing. Like
Yeah,
strip mall
kind of.
type thing.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the sign for it, and cool. Yeah, a lot of people do the online course now, and that's what I like tell everyone to do. But so you were in person for your like training, I guess.
Yeah. I did in person and online. Like he had 2 courses you could buy. You could do either one if you wanted. I preferred to do the online and in person so that if I didn't, pay attention that day or had a long day at work, I could review that content later online, because it was really exhausting, man. Like I think if I remember, I would go to work at like 8 or 7 a.m. and open up, and then I would go until about 6 o'clock, get off, go to school from like 7 to like 11 or 12, and then I had to study that night until like 1 or 2, and I did that for like a month. Yeah. Like I've never in my life fell asleep in my books. I remember one night, like I woke up like in my kitchen table, just like in my real estate books. Like it's so exhausting.
Yeah. I've told this story before. When I got my license, it was like felt like my rock bottom moment because I got fired from what I thought was my dream job, and I immediately drove and met up with Matt and Corey where they were working doing real estate, and interviewed that day. I went from like crying at my desk packing up my stuff to like basically a job interview immediately afterwards. And like 2 days later, I was in a long relationship. We broke up, and just like a lot of other things kind of happened personally when I decided to do real estate. So when I was studying, it was a bit of a nightmare. So
I hear you, man. When it rains, it storms, man.
For sure, it's interesting everyone's kind of story getting into real estate. But it sounds like a friend let you know, like, hey, this is awesome, you should do it, and then you just made the decision like that.
Yeah, it's so funny because when I first got licensed, I didn't want to even pursue the career. Like I did the test, I did everything, the fingerprints, and when it came time to like interview at brokerages, I interviewed like 8 different brokerages, and I was like, actually, I don't want to do this. Like I was just so scared because everybody was very like not supportive, but kind of like just kind of discouraging me, like, oh, I've known this and this person that did real estate and they failed, or you need to get a real job, like it's really hard, it's mad competitive. Like I think there was very few people that were like, yeah, like pursue that, that's great, outside of like my mom. Like shout out my mom, like that's like the only person I think that really showed me love and support and like stuck by me. Like even if it didn't turn out to be what I wanted it to be, she was still there by my side. But I think I just wanted to prove other people wrong so bad that I think that's what driven like my success and like my like determination to want to win.
Yeah, hell yeah, and you did.
I try, man.
That's the best part. Yeah, I would say you're super successful.
Try.
And you keep getting better, right? Yeah, that's interesting. For me, when I first started doing real estate, Kyle, Corey, Matt. I guess I had never met Corey before. I think I met him briefly once. But Kyle and Matt being like two of my only friends in Denver, because I hadn't been in Denver very long. They were the people I hung out with anyway. So like they were obviously supportive because I was just with them all day, every day, and seeing them grind and learning from them. That's basically who I learned to do real estate from. And then met all the other kind of top people there that really motivated me. But I guess looking outside of real estate, that's interesting to think about. My parents were definitely supportive. I mean, I went from getting my degree, going down this path of design. My degree's in industrial design, and then all of a sudden, like, calling my mom, like, hey, I'm getting my real estate license. And it's like, what? We paid a lot of money for you to go to college. My parents helped with my college. I still have college loans to this day, but I think now it's interesting. They were just here and just hearing about the success that we're having as a company, my successes in real estate. Like they, I don't think they regret supporting me through that. I mean, my mom literally gave me money to survive on. I paid her back, but she gave me $5,000 and was like, nice. Here you go. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, you don't. And within 6 months, I paid her back that and was doing well. But without that, I would have had to, drive for Uber or something until I figured out, a new job, staying in the same industry where I just got let go from, right? Which would have probably been rather difficult, I would imagine.
It's hard to like let go. And you'd be surprised too. Like when I was leasing and all my friends were going to college, I felt really bad. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I went to college like 3 times and dropped out every single time. Like I felt like every semester I drop out. I just wasn't there for the right reasons, didn't have the motivation or the love to pursue anything in particular. Some people wanted to be engineers or doctors, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do, right? Like that was the hardest thing. And then for real estate starting out, I think a lot of people just give up too soon. Like I'll never forget, Rich Dolph always told me, you know who Rich Dolph is?
Yeah, we
shout out Rich Dolph, great guy. He told me, he's like, you know what, Corey, the only people that really ever fail and don't make it in real estate just give up too soon. And I think that like always will carry on with me for my career, because I think a lot of times when we're in markets like this, things are hard, like when you give up too soon, right, is when you just start to fail and you just eventually maybe get out of real estate. And there's nothing wrong if you want to go back to a regular W-2 or whatever it is. But I think if you just stay consistent and just keep going and going and going, like it's eventually going to give at some point in time. Like I didn't get my first commission for 4 months.
Yeah.
Like it was exhausting driving from Aurora to Westminster every day, like 2-hour round trip to not get paid. Like it's a tough pill to swallow.
Oh yeah. It's interesting. I think that people who have a backup plan or like a plan B never find success in real estate, because you have to go all in. And I think that's the point you're making, is like if you go all in, and there's an aspect of like having patience too. It's not going to happen overnight. You're building a business. Mm-hmm. We talk about that with Zillow all the time. Is like if you look at Zillow leads or any sort of lead source as like an investment into a business, like if you're going to go out and start a Subway, right, you've got to buy the building, you've got to buy everything to make a sub, all the ingredients or whatever, and then now you can give the customer a product, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like that with real estate. You're building a business and you have to fuel that business. If you have no other way to get customers, you have to invest, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes time.
Yeah.
And then if you're not getting online leads, if you're just doing referrals, it's going to take more time, but your referrals is what's going to drive your business, and it's just patience.
Yeah.
You know? If you help 6 people this year, make those 6 people turn into 12 next year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of the name of the game.
Just being being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Like
Yeah.
once you can really grasp that idea and really truly be okay with rejection or being uncomfortable or knowing that you might not have a check this month, like it makes real estate so less stressful. I think a lot of us just weigh on ourselves a lot, right? Because we're only commission. We need to feed our families. We need to put money in our pockets, right? So having that level of pressure there is hard. And on top of that, with that rejection, you really have to be okay with just picking up, moving on, getting the next lead, and just trying to help more people.
Yeah. There's been this idea that I've been talking a lot about lately. It's you need to standardize before you can optimize. And my first year in real estate, and I know you were like this too, you were there every day, first thing in the morning, and you were grinding all day, learning, absorbing, making calls, setting appointments, doing the thing, building your business. And the people that I learned real estate from, that's what they were doing. And so that's what I did, right? And I standardized this business model of calls, appointments, showings. And then over time, I've been able to optimize that to where I can go snowboarding, 3 or 4 days a week. I still do work while I'm out there. And then when I get home, I've optimized my processes to where I can spend a lot less time and still do the same amount of business. And it's been interesting. I know you've been coaching and mentoring some newer agents on the team. And for me, when I first started doing that, it was interesting because I would look at my own business, constantly. You're helping someone build a business. You're thinking about your own business. And I would compare, or I would tell them what I do, right? And I learned very quickly that maybe that's not the best way to train someone.
Sure.
Because I have optimized my business, right? I've figured out a way to work less to still do more business every year, right? Yeah. Whereas in the beginning, you have to standardize this thing that we're doing. And that's been kind of a theme of the podcast too, is like the people who are successful in real estate just do the work every day. You do the work. Like we just had our top producer dinner, right?
Yeah.
You walk in with your computer, you're sending people homes, you're running comps, like you're like, hey, yeah, I told myself I'll work for 20 minutes and when everyone gets here, I'll put it away.
Yeah.
Right? You do the work, right? And nothing's going to stand in your way because that's what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what you were saying, it is important to have good work-life balance, right? Like not overindulging in your work, but being able to do that work in the beginning so you can go snowboarding and still claim leads, or go snowboarding and write a contract. Like it's always like that. It's like that movie Glengarry, Glenn Ross. You ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah.
We would always have different like inside jokes with me and my friends about that. And one of the bigger things was like coffee's for closers, right? Like you get your work done, you do the hard work, you make the phone calls, the lead gen. Like a lot of times I'd be at the office till 8, 9 o'clock at night. I wouldn't want to do it, but then I'm like, I got to get my 2 hours in. I got to get my 2 hours of lead gen every day. I see other people make a few phone calls here and there, have some bad ones, go hit the bar, relax, hang out, and you know what I mean? And if that's your prerogative, that's fine. It's just for me, I really wanted to, like you said, be in this position now and do all the hard work earlier. So now this is like my 5th year in real estate, and I grinded really hard for 4 years, and some of it's I regret with like not spending more time with my friends and family, missing births in the family, missing holidays, working on my birthday. Like it was very exhausting having to do all of that. But you're right, like having that good balance and finding your own style is important, and as long as you're using the right tools, right? Real estate's very duplicatable and replicatable. In essence, everybody in real estate has overall the same objective, right? With getting their clients under contract. We just all approach it a different way. But as long as you're taught the right tools of like certain things to say, things like going over the buyer's presentation, walking them through inspection, I think as long as you have those fundamentals down, everybody needs to put their own style in it. Because you're right, like nobody's Bo, nobody's Corey, like everybody's going to have their own style. If you try to teach somebody what worked for you, it may not work for them, right? Because you're completely different, right?
Yep. Yeah. In our interviews, a lot of times, Matt will talk about how he runs his business. And I always look at the person we're sitting with and I'm like, look, Matt is Matt. Not everyone's going to run their business like Matt. Not everyone's going to run it like me or Corey or whoever. Like, Matt's a freak of nature. I would argue that you're kind of a freak of nature too, because you are doing a ton of business and still, like you said, you're giving yourself time. And you might miss some things here and there.
Yeah.
But I think that's a sacrifice you're willing to make now, because you know that everyone that you close now in the future, that's your business, and that's less work that you're going to have to do when it comes to the follow-ups and all those things that take up a lot of your time or have taken up a lot of your time as you're building business. Like pretty soon, and I'm sure this is already happening, you just wake up in the morning and your phone rings that day with a referral all the time.
Yeah. Sometimes that will happen, and I'm very grateful that I took the right steps at the beginning. At my last brokerage, I would, actually do more volume as opposed to larger commissions. Okay. I think that's always a big factor for a lot of agents is we want to make the big checks, right? Which is great. Like nothing wrong with making money. For me, at the beginning of my career, I was like, I want to be unit based. I want to really refine the process. I want to do a lot of showings. I want to do a lot of inspections. Like I really want to dive deep into it, and the money will come later, right? And it still came. I had a little bit more of an aggressive commission split, and I was okay with that. Everybody would always ask me, why don't you move up your tier of your commission splits? And I'm like, I don't need to, like I'm good with my split. I get to help people, and I get an immense amount of knowledge. And to me, knowledge is power, and knowledge will always supersede any amount of money in the world because, it proves a good point during the COVID crisis, right? Like we got, I don't even know how many agents joining the industry during that time. Mm-hmm. And even then during that time, it was really hard for experienced agents to get clients under contract. Like my friends getting beat out left and right, having to submit 5, 6, 7 offers before getting something accepted. Like you had to get really creative, right? And it comes from that transactional experience and just knowing so many people. Because if you think about it, if you do a good nice amount of real estate, let's just say 20, 25 deals a year, pretty good, right? Average is 12, right? You're going to run into the same agents over and over and over. And I've won so many deals just because the agent knows that I'm going to get the deal closed, and I know they know how I work. I know how they work, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's huge. I keep running into the same agents now. Yeah? It's very interesting. Yeah. Like I'll text an agent and say, hey, I got a buyer interested. The message sends, and then I see this full like, "Hey, thanks for calling." Yeah, like I don't recognize their name or something. I know Matt. He saves every agent's number.
I do that too.
You do? Okay. Yeah, I need to do that better. Yeah.
Because you never know. You're texting them. You're like, "Oh, I ran a deal with you," and then you remember the home, and then. Yeah. Dude, then they love you automatically. Then you might get a deal over another person that maybe has the same exact offer. Like.
Yeah. The one thing I liked about HomeSnap, you could like save their contact info right from HomeSnap.
R.I.P.
I know.
R.I.P. HomeSnap. No more spying on agents.
Have you seen the statistic that Homes.com got last month? Got 100 million individual website visitors.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know
And they keep
that.
bragging about it, that it's coming for Zillow, that all this stuff. But you know why? It's because HomeSnap disappeared, and now all
the agents are on there. It's not even. And I don't know why they would do that. That was probably like my most favorite tool in real estate ever is HomeSnap.
And you can look up the other agent.
So nice.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like if I recognize the text message, I would go to that agent's page and I could look through the houses they sold. So that's the one, we closed that one together or whatever. Yeah, it's a bummer.
You can still look, but like it's weird. Like before you have like the agent profile, then it'll show their buys and lists. Now if you get into it, it'll just show their overall sales and then a map. And then you have to individually click and you can't see when their last sale was. So it's not very helpful because, and this sounds maybe, I don't want to say it sounds terrible, but I feel like whenever I'd get like an offer on a listing, right, or I'm on a buy side, I want to know who I'm going up against, right? And if I feel like I'm, maybe getting an offer on my listing and I'm like, man, this is super sloppy. I'm missing all kinds of dates and deadlines. There's all kinds of things. I'm thinking in my head, how many deals have they done, right? I'm are they new? And then I go to HomeSnap and I'm like, sure enough, like I just reaffirms what I was thinking. So I kind of like that and being able to screen people. Like it helps you also be strategic with winning offers.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single offer I've ever written or received, I've looked up the agent on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
You have to.
And then I look up agents on the team, agents on other teams that I know, because I'm always trying to be the best or do better, or see how someone else is doing, yada yada. But
it's a motivational,
it's super motivational.
I remember when I was at my last brokerage, I would always home snap Matt. I would always home snap him because I'm like, how does this guy do all these deals? Like when I first met him, I was like, I just need to know how you do it. I was always thinking about them. Like, how is he doing so much? Like such a crazy volume. It felt very unrealistic. But then I would talk to him, and he just, like you said, had a plan, right? Very strategic with his approach, and very, very smart and aggressive. Not the approach for everybody, right? Because it's kind of scary, right? Yeah. Like investing that amount of money and time. But I remember always looking at his home snap, and it would always be up and up and up. I'm like, man, I want that many pass sales. Yeah. And then I finally got that many pass sales. Not as many as him, but.
He, I think he told me he had 16 or 17 people under contract at once.
Dang.
And he said it was the worst experience of his life.
I believe it.
He's like a month later, most money he ever had by far. But at that time, before any of them had closed, everything just hit. It was in June or something.
Yeah.
He said no sleep. Everyone just blowing him up all day, every day, and for some people that can manage those emotions, and this is advice that Matt gave me. When I was working my first contract, I was negotiating inspection or whatever, and I remember what happened now. So the appraiser couldn't get a hold of the listing agent, so he called me.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes and appraises the house. I first deal ever. Appraiser calls me, hey, can I get the lockbox code? Sure. Gave it to him. I had no idea, right? He goes in and does the appraisal. Appraisal comes back low. Agent calls me and is like, hey, you talked to the appraiser. You tainted this appraisal. That's why it's low, right? My employment broker is going to be in touch. Likely this is going to go to court, yada, yada. And we actually just rebutted the appraisal, and it came up to value right after that.
Wow.
But for me, I was terrified. I was like, well, I did real estate for 2 months.
You're like, I'm done now.
I'm done, yeah. But I was emotional, whatever.
Yeah.
I was distraught. And Matt's advice was, the more you can keep your emotions out of this, you need to care. You need to care about the success of your client and care about them, because it's going to be someone who really needs a house. And back then with the leads we were getting, those people, arguably more than the leads that we're getting now, needed to be in a house.
For sure.
Right? It was always a bad situation. It was always a tough situation. Sure. And, I personally, not that I don't care about my clients now, but I really cared about these people getting into a home.
Feel bad, right? Sometimes they have bad situations,
gunshots in the neighborhood, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, anyhow, he was like, if you can keep your emotions out of it, because you have this emotional listing agent who has had a closing in 6 months, they need this check. You've got the buyer's lender, maybe they haven't had a closing in 6 months, they need this check, right? You've got you, who knows what you're feeling. Then you've got the seller who raised their kids in this house. They've got all these emotional connections. Then you've got your buyer who their lease is up in 30 days, right? And they have to buy this place. So the more you can keep your emotions out of it, the more success you're going to have, and the more sleep you're going to get. So that's been, ever since he told me that it's very, very hard to do. A lot of times, but it's always in the back of my mind of am I making emotional decisions? I'll get a call from the listing agent and they're trying to negotiate something. They tell me whatever. I say, hey, I'm going to think about it. Let me call you back.
Sure.
Right. And just won't engage. Right. Because I know in the moment I'm going to be like, hey, you guys can go F yourself or whatever, because that's how I feel. I'd never say that, but that's what I want to say, and that's going to cloud my judgment. And most of the time, it's up to the client anyway, if that's the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it is very important to separate your emotions and also your ego from it. In real estate, naturally, right? We all have different egos and how we approach things. And I've even found myself letting my ego get in the way, and sometimes I need to step back and be like, hey, this isn't about me. This is about my client. If they're happy and that's what they want to do, absolutely. Because naturally, we all want to fight for our clients, right? We want to get them the best, possible deal and best possible outcome. But yeah, I agree too with the emotional aspect of it, because also you're the professional, right? They hire us to be their real estate advisors, to guide them on this really big decision, probably the biggest decision they'll make of their life. And I found if you're emotional, right, that's going to rub off on your client. Like, you never want to go to your client bad mouthing the listing agent, talking about, oh, they don't want to do this and that, and they're terrible. They've only done this many deals. Like, then your client's, oh yeah, he is terrible. You know what? I'm pulling out. And they're like, oh, I just termed this deal on my own by, you know what I mean? Like, and that happens. It happens all the time. And people, like Matt said, you have to separate your emotions, because if, your client's already emotional, you're the professional and you're emotional, I can't rely on the emotional guy that's professional. Let me buy a house. Like, I'm going to make a different decision, right? So, yeah, and it'll help you get a lot more sleep. I found when things happen with deals blow up, bad things happen. I feel once you've had enough bad or erratic situations happening in your real estate career, you just become jaded to it. And it's just like another thing. I'm like, oh, another broken sewer line. Well, we're just going to have to get this figured out.
Yep. And so one thing that I've done that I think, so I try to always have 2 people under contract. Right. And sometimes I have more than that. Right. But if I always have 2, if one goes bad, I still have another deal that because things are going to terminate. They are. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely been there where I'm counting my money before I've got it. And then things happen day before closing or whatever. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But I think even running your business, if you have to have that closing, or have to have a closing, or have to get your client under contract, you're not going to run your business in a way that you should. You're not going to put your client's needs in front of your own. And in my opinion, that's how, if you want to be successful in real estate, that's how you should run your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
It revolves around what's important for your client, because that's your job as their fiduciary representative, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. They instill a lot of trust in us. There can be a lot of very critical mistakes that can be made through the transaction. I've had many situations where I've honestly learned and got scared from other agents' situations, right? Like, we've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes in my real estate career that have, given me a wake-up call and humbled me very, very much, which sucks because you kind of have to learn from pain at times. But you just be very observant on what you're doing and very careful, because, as fun as this seems as a job, sometimes I think people act a little too loose, right? And then that's where things fall through the cracks. That's where mistakes are made. You bring your emotions into it, and it can, dig you into a deeper hole than you probably want to be in.
And you're toying with someone's livelihood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a fun job, but it's a very serious job.
It is.
At the end of the day. Have you ever had an agent on the other side that's just crazy emotional? Enough so that you've either, now when you go to work with them again, you're going to be like, dear God, I hope my clients don't offer on this house.
Yeah, I remember. I'll never forget her. I'm not going to name drop her because I want to be respectful. Things happen. Water under the bridge. But it was a terrible, 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 terrible nightmare of a transaction. The client, I believe, if I recall, worked on a board of an HOA. So she was super, super picky with everything, and we had to get this roof replaced. And it almost felt like the buyer's agent was just not educating her buyer properly and guiding them, and just kind of letting the buyer take control of the whole transaction. And it was the biggest nightmare. I wish I could be more specific. All I can tell you is I definitely almost threw my laptop across the room. Like, I was that angry. I feel like it was almost times where she would like purposely do things to like make me upset or make things difficult, and it just really, really ruined my Christmas. But I wish I had a better story for you. I really don't, unfortunately. Thankfully, I haven't had too many bad situations. Yeah. Mostly people just being unreasonable and letting their ego get in the way. Like, oh, I want the contract this way, or this needs to be like this. Like, and it doesn't even have an adverse effect on the contract or the whole home purchase, right? It's just them wanting something very specific, right? And just being kind of a pain in the butt. But I feel like that's probably the hardest thing we deal with, right? Is other agents, because not everybody's trained like us. Everybody's different.
Least favorite part of the job is dealing with other real estate agents, for sure. It's the most difficult part of the job. It's what keeps me up at night. Yeah, I've had a couple experiences where I was like, I hope I never work with this person again.
Yeah.
I've had agents cry on the other end
Oh, really?
of negotiations and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Um,
I've never had that.
I recently had one, man. It was a cheap condo. We asked for not a lot on inspection, and this agent just lost her mind. I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest with you. But if I ever show one of her properties, or like I feel like I'm gonna have to do my client a solid and like just tell them, hey, if you offer on this, I've worked with this agent before.
Yeah.
I don't like to talk bad about my peers in the industry, but
Yep.
this is the only one that I will say we got to be prepared, because I've never experienced something like that
Yeah.
in my life. Like, I don't think she's going to be in the industry much longer, because the way she was feeling and how upset she was, like, there's no way you can live life and feel that way in your daily job.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, with the minimal stuff that my client asked for, that it's got to be way worse on other transactions. Way worse.
Yeah, for something so small and for her to react so big too.
Right.
And it's going to happen again. Like,
We're talking like $500 credit at closing or something.
wow.
Yeah.
That's really small. Yeah, I know how you feel when it's like you have almost no words for those situations. Yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit tough working with those agents. And, you know, the hard part is, too, that's why on the buy side, I always try to be very respectful, very kind. Even if the other agent is kind of like giving me a hard time, you know, I'll try to be kind and respectful, because you don't want to burn bridges. You run into that same agent like we were talking about earlier. And you know what? Just on the contrary, right? Like, if you're on the buy side, I may advise my clients the same thing. Like, hey, this is maybe going to be how this deal is, because I've ran a transaction with this listing agent before. I had one where she was like, it was almost really weird, because she would just blatantly ignore my phone calls. Like, the entire real estate transaction was a 30-day close. I talked to her one time when I wrote the offer, and she would never, and even in
Just
big
text.
situations,
Text
just
everything.
text.
Yeah.
Only text. And I'm like, some of this stuff we need to talk about on the phone, and she absolutely refused.
Yeah.
100%. Wouldn't answer her phone, nothing.
That's happened to me before.
It's weird.
And it was to the point where I called their employment broker and was like, hey, I'm going to report this agent to DORA and to the Colorado Real Estate Commission, because they have fiduciary responsibility to.
Did they answer your call after that?
No.
No? Still they still didn't?
Yeah, we there was actually a huge ordeal at closing with like keys getting swapped because she wouldn't. Her seller, like, yeah, it was a long thing, but yeah, text only, and then wouldn't respond to text. Hey, can you give me a call?
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, especially if you're negotiating, you can't negotiate
Yeah.
over text.
Yeah.
Like, if you continue down this road, you're the agent that gets replaced, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
AI can do your job, right? Or just the seller. Like, they don't. What do they need an agent for at this point, right? Like, you're not doing anything for them.
I feel like that's a lot of agents that are very seasoned or have been in it for a while, kind of just exhausted, right? They're just like, I don't even want to, you know what I mean? They're like, I've been in this for 25 years, right? Like, we've all talked to that agent before.
Yeah.
Hopefully we never get to be like that agents, but I try hard to not be that agent, right? Because we all start somewhere. Nobody's better than anybody.
When they say that to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm at 26.
Yeah. Just give them the one up.
One up every time. No, I'm kidding. You should do that, though. That would be hilarious.
Oh, man.
25 years. Well, I'm at 26 actually this year. So
I really love how,
back in our day.
like, when people say that, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to jump for joy and be like, oh my God, no way, seriously? Like, what? I don't know what response you're fishing for besides you just trying to, like, dominate your seniority here, which I'm not intimidated by, because I've looked at your home snap already, so I can see that you've done that. But you've also done like 4 deals a year for the past like 10 years, like.
Right.
And I think that's another thing I think that kind of, you know, rubs me a little bit the wrong way is, you know, some agents will get business because they've been in it for 20 years, but I'm like, they've done 4 deals this year. Like, if you're not doing consistent transactions and keeping up, like, things and contracts change,
Especially in our
negotiations
market
change.
too,
Yeah, like,
right.
you have to keep up with the trend and the flow of things and keep up with what's going on right now. And if you're only, you know, doing it part-time, you're in it 2-3 deals a year, like, you don't know what's going on in the industry. They changed the seller's property disclosure like 5 times since I've done real estate. They changed the TD 1000 every single year. Like, like, you have to be in it consistently to be right?
Not
Good for
only
your
do they
clients.
change it, every title company has a different version. So you go to like talk to your client about it, and you're like, oh, line number 9. Wait, line number 10. Wait, this is different.
They're like, oh, you could do it like this and fill it out like that. And now I just let the closer do it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, please just walk them through it because I don't know how you want to do it.
Right. Have you ever had to review the whole closing packet with your client?
No, but you know what? I had one buyer where he read every single document word for word, the whole thing. I've only had that happen once, but it was like a 4-hour closing. Yeah. I was like, wow.
That's happened to me twice.
Very impressive.
Because I helped the same client twice.
Oh,
they did the same thing both times. I'm like,
you read through it once.
You read it before, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like nothing's changed. Well, it's funny too because I'm like, even if there's something that's you don't agree with, it's not going to change. Like,
yeah, what are you going to do?
We're going to terminate.
You're going to lose your earnest money.
I think those people I understand because they've probably just been wronged really bad in their life and didn't read something, and like that's the only thing I can think of why you want to do that. Like,
yeah. Well, they turn to you, too, to, like, know the answers a lot of times because they've never met the closer before. They're like, who is this lady?
Can I trust this person?
Right. When really at closing, I sit there, I crack jokes, maybe I close out their file or whatever, but I'm not involved. I'll make sure the settlement statement looks good, obviously. But after that, it's like the closers, they're doing their thing with you.
I let them guide everything. I don't really try to give my opinion. And I think I do that too with a lot of things with like even inspection items. Like I'm not an inspector, I'm not a lender, I'm not an appraiser. I know a little bit about all those things, but my main focus is real estate. Like,
for sure.
You don't want to get yourself in a situation.
Well, I think that's the name of the game too, is like managing expectations, right? With your clients. So like before your inspection, you're managing the expectations of here's how it's going to go.
Yep.
The inspector's going to do the inspection. They're going to give you a rundown. If you have questions, you should ask them, not me. I'm not an inspector, right? I'm joking all the time, but that's like, there's truth to that. Like, don't ask me if you should replace your water heater that's 12 years old. Like, what did the inspector say? Because I'm going to refer back to what he says. And at the end of the day, I'm always going to err on the side of protecting you. So, like, if you feel that the water heater that's 8 years old needs to be replaced, I'm going to go try to get it replaced for you because that's what you want, right? Whereas if it were my house, I might think differently. I might get a home warranty. I might let it go for a few years. Something else might be more important, but that's not on me to tell you that, right? At the end of the day, I'm going to say, hey, what's the inspection say? Yeah. But even at closing, it's like, before you get to closing, you let them know how it's going to go. That way they're not there to say, hey, I'm going to read every document. Hey, most of the stuff you've already seen. A lot of stuff you're going to be signing again. The closer's going to be there to review everything with you. If you have questions, they'll be able to answer. I'm going to be there closing out your file. Also here to support and take photos at the end or whatever, right? Yeah. But every step of the process, writing offers, whatever, as long as, and that's me personally, as long as I prepare my client for whatever is about to happen next, I don't have problems.
Yeah.
And that's reviewing the contract, right? Like, I don't know. Do you review the contract every time?
Oh, yeah, every single time. Cool. That's really, really important. I think
most important.
Setting the expectations and just going through everything before, because we forget we do this every day. They don't do this every day.
Never do.
Ever, right? So if you're not walking them through, and some agents don't, and that's okay if that works for them, but I want to cover all my bases so that way if something comes up later, I could say, hey, no, we did talk about this, right? Like, but if you never did that, then it's kind of like your fault. Why didn't you tell me about this, Corey? Why didn't we go over this? And then I'm like, oh, I was lazy that night. Like, I didn't want to walk you through it. Like, and some clients don't need it, right? Like, I know some clients that are, my engineer clients, right? Like, I can tell, and I'll just let them know, do you want to just review this and let me know if you have questions? And 9 out of 10 times they're like, yes.
Yeah.
But I have no questions.
The funniest ones are like attorneys.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, let's review the contract. They're not, we're good. We signed it. What?
Like, yeah, we're good to go.
Yeah, we signed it. Like, did you read it? No, I mean, it's a standard contract.
I trust you.
Yeah.
It's all good.
And you would think that like someone who deals with contracts every day is the one people that would be like, we're gonna go through this in detail, but no,
they just understand. Like, that's why I love those clients too that are the attorneys, the engineers, the very serious ones, because they're straight to the point. They know what they want. It's very easy going over contracts. You don't have to go in super great detail, but I kind of like that. Like, I love the first time home buyer where I can kind of educate them on everything, and I love the reaction of like, oh my god, I didn't know that. Like, it makes me feel good to like share information with people and help people especially when situations they think they can't buy a house. Like there's so many people I've helped that thought they really couldn't buy a house because they just had the wrong information, or they didn't have anybody to sit down and walk them through like, hey, this is how this happens. People probably could have bought houses years ago, but they were just never told right.
Yeah.
Or told otherwise.
Yeah. Cool. We've been on this like real estate road. So how did you get to NAV, I guess?
So I think I probably started with Tiffany. Shout out Tiffany Traxler if you listen to this. I was at my last brokerage with her, and I was really good buddies with Anthony, and then Josh as well. He actually lives in where does Josh live now? He lives out of state. I think he lives in Idaho. But I came over from my last brokerage with them. We were all friends at that brokerage, all went our ways at different times for different reasons. Ended up here, and then I was talking to Tiffany, and I always thought about working over here. It was between this and another brokerage in Denver that was very similar to your guys's. And I could never get a interview at that other one, unfortunately. I tried to reach out to a few people over there and just never got a response. So I was talking to Tiffany, and she set me up with Matt, and I came over and made a decision immediately. Like I said, I honestly didn't think I would really get a job here, because I know I heard from a few people that it was like very exclusive, or like they didn't hire like everybody. But yeah, man, that's how I came over to Compass. And then I think, when did we change the name? Like within
a year later.
A year later, yeah. And then NAV.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, there's truth to that. We definitely sat down with people who were like, you're not going to be a good fit, yada, yada. But I remember we were talking about this a little earlier. Like, it was a big deal when you joined, because where you were the top agent, doing the most amount of business. And then you made the jump to join us, and instantly became like the top agent here, one of the top agents here. And have been every quarter since.
Thank you, man.
In terms of number of deals, like, I'm pretty sure like you and Russ have been kind of neck and neck each quarter.
Yeah.
Do you look at his numbers and you're like, I got to beat him this quarter?
No, I know he's already killing me, man. He's had like, I think when we were at Casa Bonita, he had like 10 people under contract, and I only had like 2 or 3. So I think he's like 7 or 8 ahead of me. Shout out Russ. Russ is really, really good at real estate. I admire people that really, I can tell, are super dedicated and driven, and have their best interest in for their clients. And yeah, he does really, really good, man. I think he's about 9 ahead of me. So I was really trying to win that trip, and I was like, oh, I got this in the bag. I'm above Sean Doran's. I knocked Landon out, and then I seen Russ's number. I was like, oh, I don't have it anymore. And it's the end of the year, and it's slower now. So yeah, I think he's got me beat now.
Yeah, I mean, you could come through at the end.
I could, but man, it'd be a lot of work. And now at this time, like, since real estate's kind of slow with like interest rates, I've been kind of like not taking as much of an aggressive approach as I was the last couple of months. Like, I've been kind of winding down, because I'm like, you know what, these rates aren't going to be like this forever, and I want to take some time off and spend time with my family and go on vacation. Like, my girlfriend's mom and sister are coming in town this weekend, so we're going to take them out and do some stuff. And I think I have like 1 showing tomorrow, so I'll do a few deals here and there. But in terms of like competing with Russ, man, I don't think it's gonna happen. That guy's a killer.
I want to qualify for profit share this quarter, so I've got to get
and
3 transactions at least. I don't have any contracts. I just took the last month off. Claimed 1 lead yesterday. Got a showing today. So
nice.
My plan is to claim, maybe 20 leads over the next 2 weeks, and just try to get as much done as possible between now and the end of the year. Because I leave January 1st to go to Japan for 30 days.
Oh, dope.
So I'm trying to do some business before I go. And actually, this year, the trip is completely free, and I'm gonna make money.
Really?
I'm gonna work for one of the weeks I'm there. I'm gonna work as a guide, guiding people in the backcountry snowboarding.
Oh, that's awesome.
So make pretty substantial amount of money just for doing that.
Really?
Because of my best friend, so he's actually licensed here. He was on the podcast. His name's TJ. He's doing a 2-week snowboard retreat there.
TJ Zasa?
No.
Is that his last name?
No, TJ Kern.
Oh, okay, different TJ. Okay,
yep.
Okay.
And yeah, TJ, I think he's in the Springs. TJ Zaza.
No, I'm thinking of the guy from my last brokerage. He lives.
I used to work with him.
Yeah.
I thought he's in the Springs now.
Oh, does he live in the Springs?
The People's Champ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he live down there? I thought he
I
moved
think
out of
so.
state. He
Oh,
may have
really?
moved back. Yeah, he may
Okay.
have moved back.
I also could be completely wrong. I did, but he's the man. I liked him a
Yeah,
lot.
shout out TJ.
So anyway, so doing that. So at least this trip, I'm not gonna come back and be freaking out about getting more closings or whatever, because I'm gonna make some money.
How long are you going to be out there for?
30 days.
Dang, that's nice. I've always wanted to go to Japan. My girlfriend doesn't want to go because she's like, it's going to be so hard. And they don't speak English. I'm like, there's so many Americans there. And
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people speak English there.
You-
I'm pretty sure.
All the signs in English, like you can get around so easy.
I want to
Like,
do that.
yeah.
We were looking at a cruise and it went to like 7 different countries. And Tokyo was one of the stops there. It's like a Japanese, like a tour of Asia, basically.
This is my 5th year going for about
Dang,
a
that's
month.
amazing. I've always wanted to go. My friend's out there right now. He's in South Korea, and then he's making his way to Tokyo. But he went to like 10 or 12 different countries. He's been gone for like a month. Everybody's doing that. I was talking to somebody the other day that's also doing a year in Argentina. No, not a year. My bad. I think he's doing 3 months in Argentina next year. We got Luis. He's out in, I don't know if he's still in Costa Rica, but he's doing his for a year.
Peru right now.
Peru.
Yeah.
See, that's so cool. Like, that would be nice. Like, my dream would be to, if I could literally just live in London for 3 months. I don't know if that's, I think, the max for the visa there, without having to, apply for further citizenship, right? But I think London would be amazing for 3 months.
Yeah. I've never been to London. I have a ton of friends who live there.
It's
like
great.
Some of the guys who come to Japan with us are from London.
It's fantastic.
It's
Definitely go. It's my
Yeah.
favorite place I've ever been. Like, we went out to Europe last year. We went to London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, and Venice. Rome was really cool. Venice is a little small, but London's amazing. Like, they love Americans. They're super nice. Food is incredibly cheap. Alcohol, like, go to the bar and get like a $3 beer. Like,
The U.S. dollar there now is like doing really well too. So.
yeah, I think they're almost dollar for dollar. I don't know what holds more value. I think
Okay.
the pounds do more than the US dollar by not that much, maybe 25 cents or something. But dude, like, when I was at the airport, I was flying out of London Heathrow, and I think I got like a drink, a bag of chips, and a sandwich for like $3.50.
Wow.
Like, it's kind of like shocking. Like, and they don't tip there,
Yeah.
like, at all. Like, when I went to the bar to try to tip the bartender, they looked at me really weird.
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, this American." Like, I'm like, "What's this for?" I'm like, "Your tip." It's not like a culture out there, apparently.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we're my wife. So shout out Tiffany Traxler. She actually introduced me and my wife. She helped my wife.
Oh, really?
Buy a condo.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they closed, and like a couple days later, Tiffany's like, "I gotta introduce you to this chick."
She's the matchmaker.
Yep.
Dang.
We went on a blind date. Well, I'd sell her like social media, but we went on a blind date. Me and her and Tiffany's ex-husband. They weren't married at the time yet. And we hit it off.
Dang, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's a cool story. I never knew that.
Yep.
Wow. Helped her buy the condo. Dang, I wonder if she was helping her buy the condo. What year was this?
It was at iHomes.
It was
But
at that?
this was before you were there.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
I'd been doing real estate like
Okay.
a month at the time.
Oh, so brand new.
Yep.
Dang, that's cool. That's an awesome story.
Because Tiffany was there before me.
Was she?
I think so.
She was there for a while, and then I think she left maybe a year prior to, maybe not that much. Actually, maybe it was like 6 months or something prior to me also exiting. But dang, that's crazy. I never even knew that.
Yep.
Who would have thought?
So, one question that I've been asking everyone on the podcast, and it might be something you have to think about, but it's got some pretty entertaining answers. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen on a showing? And maybe I should have prepared you for this.
Craziest thing I've ever seen on a showing. That's a great question. I would say, and I guess it's not really that crazy. I have a couple of things. So I was showing one house in Aurora. It's like off of Smoky Hill Road, this really cool house. It was like in the 700 price point, I think. And we went to the basement, and there was this really cool like wall. And you know how in old school basements, like our grandparents' basements, you have the insulation, and it's like the white sheet on the outside, but it's puffy. You go press the wall and it puffs and pushes in. You play with it as a kid.
Yeah.
There was a section you'd press on that wall, and it had a hidden door, and then it was a huge safe door. like an old school safe with a little dial thing in the middle, and you turn it and it opened up into a panic room.
Okay.
And it was a huge panic room. Had gun racks, cameras. It was like concrete bunkered out, like super, super cool. That was probably the craziest thing I've seen. I know it's not like super wild or anything, but it was weird because it was like in such a nice part of Aurora, like South Aurora. It wasn't like a bad part of Aurora or anything, but maybe there were like doomsday preppers or whatever. But I think that's probably the craziest thing I've seen in a showing. The craziest thing I've happened during a transaction, maybe that could be somewhat relatable, is I had one situation where right before COVID hit, because I think COVID hit in like March or April of 20, and my buyer got under contract, and we got all the way through to inspection, and right at inspection the seller passed away right in the middle of the transaction. And then on top of that, he didn't have a will, so we couldn't find the will for like over a month. And then we finally found the will, and we were going to probate it, and then COVID hit, and then my buyer lost his job all in one succession. I was like, wow, this house just wasn't meant for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the wildest thing I think I've ever had happen to me in real estate.
Dang.
Nothing too crazy, thankfully.
When COVID hit, I had 5 people under contract, and they all terminated.
Dang, really? All at the same? Yeah, because nobody knew like what was gonna happen, right? Like, yeah, that's a hard one.
But then I closed 11 deals the following June.
I believe it.
All those people went back under contract on different properties. And I was like working because I was freaking out, you know. I just got back from Japan, didn't have any money, you know. I needed closings for sure. As we talked about earlier, like I was that person that was like grinding because I needed to make some money.
You ever had anything happen
freaking out
like crazy on a showing or weird?
Oh yeah,
man, I feel jealous. I feel like I've talked to agents that have had a lot. I've really never had anything weird.
I saw a safe room once. It was in like a multi-million-dollar house. It was a bookshelf, and they had it open, and it was only about 4 feet tall. So like there was like a little thing that like all the books were gone, but you could see where you like put a book on it and you can pull it. But basically it was like a lever that they removed the book. So it's opened up and you go in, and it's like this huge room, camera screens and all that stuff. Big lock on the thing, but it was a kid's playroom. They like just had like toys and stuff in there.
Oh,
the kids were
that's
playing.
pretty cool.
So that was interesting. That was when I first started doing real estate. I barely remember like the details, to be honest, but yeah, I have this. So I've had a lot of weird things happen on showings, like with animals a lot of times. Like you know, like a German Shepherd jumped on me once. Cats escape. You know. One time a cat escaped and literally just ran outside and jumped into the neighbor's yard, and I had to like go chase it down. It got bit and scratched and like, all this stuff. I was freaking out, and then later they told me it was an outside cat, and I could have just like
let him go. He's fine.
Yeah.
I had one house I was showing in Lakewood. It was really cool, like right in the heart of Lakewood, and they had a horse, they had like sheep, and they had an alpaca named Bubba. It was really cool, and my client bought that house, and I was like, man, that's so cool. Like just a big alpaca in the middle of Lakewood, like the most strange thing, because I guess a lot of the land there and, you know, old Lakewood was zoned for farm, and then eventually it got rezoned over the years of it developing, and then they let those people get grandfathered in, so you just have alpacas in your backyard if you want. That was pretty cool.
So I do have a story I'll tell. I don't think I've told it on here yet, because I ask this question every time, and normally I get the same question back. But you know, I see a lot of weird stuff in houses. Like you'll see just like a collection of baby dolls or something, and it's like, you know, to you this is awesome. This is your collection. You're proud of it, but to every single other person on planet Earth, this is freaky, right? So I actually bought this house. So I'm shopping for my first property, and I'm doing showings by myself because it's just me, right? And I don't know if you've shown like a lot of FaceTime houses or like been in homes by yourself. I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. Like I'm not a huge fan of just showing houses by myself. I like the client to be there. I like to have conversation. I like to know that it's
engaging.
There's no ghosts or like, you know, it's safe. Or
I'm not here by myself if I get attacked.
Right. So I'm in this house and I love it, right? You know, I'm shopping for myself. It's in Aurora. So like Chambers and Yale is where it's located.
I'm familiar with that area.
Like the Victory Park. It was like that big park there. So I'm in the house, seeing everything. Finally I get down to the basement. And the way the basement's finished is like there's kind of like two sides. There's an unfinished side, And then there's a finished side where they have like their master bedroom in the basement, huge closet, and then a bathroom kind of in the back. So you can go down this way and you can see all that. And then there's a door, and you go down the left side, the unfinished side. There's like a workbench, washer, dryer, furnace, all that. So it's back there. And then behind the bathroom, so what would be the wall in the bathroom, there's just like a hallway, like an unfinished hallway. And there's like some racks on the sides. And then I'm like down there, and I never found the light switch on the unfinished side. So I'm like, I can kind of see from the windows, but it's pretty dark. And I like just peek, and I see at the very end, there's a closet. And I'm like, okay, I gotta go look at it, right? So the whole way down, there's like spider webs and stuff, and I'm like holding my phone, my flashlight on my phone. And I'm kind of looking at the concrete. I'm looking for cracks in the concrete and stuff like that, like structural stuff I can see. And I get right to the end, and I like turn to the closet, and they've got this like Halloween decoration that's like a zombie butler, and he's holding like a tray of Halloween candy, but it's like the most terrifying like freaky witch zombie face, right? And it's right in front of me, and I like scream, jump, hit my head on like these racks, and like just like eat it as I'm like backtracking down the hall. And like probably the most scared I've ever been in a showing, just terrified, like there by myself out of nowhere. Made definitely like a squill, And
you're like, I'll buy it. I'll take it.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to make an offer.
This is the one.
I'm going to tell the agent about this. So
this is part of the exclusions. Please take the zombie butler, please.
Yeah, seriously. Scared me to death. And like the whole time we lived there, my wife would like never go down that hallway because it was just kind of creepy down there, I ended up putting more lights in, so it was like we could use that area. But yeah, that's one thing that happened to me. Yeah. I don't know. I have a whole folder on my phone of like weird things I see at showings. I'll take a photo,
write them down,
add them in. Yeah. One day I had this envision of once I get like 100 things, I'm gonna start an Instagram and just start posting.
It's weird things I've seen on showings.
That's
pretty cool. That's a smart idea. I feel like that would probably be very helpful because I feel like I've seen a lot of weird things, but I think I've just normalized it because I've seen so many houses, and I'm like, the seller's just getting out of the shower and just talking to us. Like, that's not weird at all. Like, I don't know. I feel like we run into a lot of stuff on showings, and just kind of put it to the back of our mind because it's not surprising.
Become numb to it.
Yeah.
Nothing's surprising.
Yeah, nothing's very surprising anymore. Not in real estate. Even with people too. Like, you meet so many different types of people. I think that's the funnest part is, there's just so many different types of people and how they are and how they buy. I've met some really cool people too, some characters for sure in my day.
Yeah.
People that I'll never forget.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course.
Congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
And I hope to see a lot more. If anybody wants to work with you, reach out to you, is there a good way they can reach you?
Text, email, give me a call. I think you can go to my Zillow profile too.
Cool.
All my information's on there.
Yeah, and on our website, navcolorado.com, we have the whole team there, everyone's contact information. If you want to talk with Corey, reach out to him.
Give me a call, help you buy and sell.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for watching. If you liked the podcast, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next video soon.
Later.
Peace.